So, without drawing attention to the wildly new Orbit music that they've added in some D1 soundtracks for, because they're nice people, I wanted to go over the new exotic class items for Warlock and what roles I would suggest farming for DPS builds and just PvP builds and builds in general. So the first, as I already have it equipped, I'm going to be talking about a PvP build. This is the build I've been using in Trials, and it uses an Aisha's Care, a Found Verdict, and my Slammer is just a placeholder, as it is my only 2000 weapon in that slot. I don't know why I have 0 enemies killed on it, and only 8, but whatever. Kill tracker don't work. So, going to the subclass, I'm using Innova Bomb, but obviously in PvP, you just swap this out for whatever you like. I'd recommend Needle Storm, because it's a one-off, it's got a low cooldown. However, if you're getting your super with a lot of damage, then maybe use one of the longer cooldown ones, but that's up to you. As terms of abilities, I'd recommend a Healing or Phoenix Dive. Moving through to jump, just use whatever jump you feel comfortable with. I use the Stasis Melee just as like a backup for Freeze. However, I can also see Pocket Singularity being very good. And a Healing Grenade I use to finish that off. However, Cold Snaps, very nice as well. As for aspects, I'm using Feed the Void and Hellion. Hellion's pretty good as you're using your class ability a lot in PvP. However, if you don't want to use Feed the Void, I would definitely recommend using Lightning Surge, as this melee is insanely good in PvP. As you can see though, I haven't done the adventure to actually unlock these because I've been enjoying the Feed the Void use. Yeah, I'm not really getting a lot of usage out of Feed the Void though, so with this build. So unless you're using a more damage-like ability focused build, I would definitely recommend using Lightning Surge as that ability for a PvP build. In terms of fragments, the only one that really matters for PvP is Facet of Blessing. If you're using Kavoshtov, Facet of Grace is really good as well. Facet of Solitude is pretty good if you're hitting a lot of rapid precision hits. Facet of Dawn just for the Radiant now and then if I ever need it. And Facet of Hope just to get my class ability back faster. In terms of armor, it's just the normal kinetic targeting, dexterity mods type of stuff, and I'm using a Ophidian and Vesper Warlock bond for this, as I can get my... I don't really like Vesper though for PvP, but Ophidian's pretty good. I haven't actually been able to get what I want for PvP, but it is what it is. The second slot doesn't have a lot of good things for PvP, but the first one has Ophidian, so that's quite nice. But that's what I've been using. For PvP, I'd also recommend if you could get something like maybe Spirit of the Filaments. So, and then you could switch this to an Emprift and you'd get Devour. And then maybe in PvP you can get that like kind of system to work where you have Devour. Or if you want your health back in PvP, you can just use Red Death Reformed. On every kill, you're going to get Cure times 2, which is like 50-60% of your health. Remember that this Red Death doesn't get a catalyst until the next part of the episode comes out. Whereas, right here, rank 145, which releases in 23 days from the time I'm recording this. But yeah, for PvP, I'd definitely recommend farming for one with Ophidians. The second perk doesn't really matter too much. However, you can get Stag as well, and Stag will help when you're in your Rift. You will take less damage. But I'd definitely recommend some combination with Stag or Ophidians for PvP. Moving on to PvE purposes, I'll cover 2 different builds. So this is a build I've been using in solo flawless runs, just for damage, using Dragon's Breath, in solo flawless Grasp of Avarice, just to keep the ogre not moving. In terms of subclass, as a damage build, I'm using Nova Bomb, and I'll get to why in just a second, a Healing Rift, Burst Glide, I'm using Arcane Needles, but you need a Darkness melee, and Arcane Needles have 3 charges. They are the best Darkness melee for PvE. Vortex Grenade, and we'll get to that in a second. Feed the Void, and Bleak Watcher for any stasis turrets I would want to throw out. However, you can very much use Hellion here for extra ignition procs. You do not need to use stasis turrets here at all. As in terms of fragments, the ones you definitely do need are Dominance. So, because we're running a Vortex Grenade, Dominance is going to make that nade apply weaken, and that's really good for debuffing bosses during a damage phase. Moving on, we have Facet of Mending. Now, if you are able to get your grenade back fast, as you are with Devour, then you can spam out your nades a lot and get Mending, and then you will be able to heal, and it's a good way to stay alive in case you need some quick healing and you're in mid to low end content where your grenades are actually killing things. It's important to know that Bleak Watcher turrets do not get mending stacks from them if they cause a shatter. So this Bleak Watcher turret is really only useful for freezing targets, but it's also useful for a couple of fragments that we'll get to now. Facet of Command. Now, Facet of Command did get a massive nerf. It's now got a 12-second cooldown, so you really only get one auto-loading stack, and you have to use it quite wisely. However, one auto-loading stack can be really good if you're using an Envious Assassin grenade launcher and you just need that one reload toward the end. So that's pretty good, and that's why I have Bleak Watcher turrets actually on in the first place, so I can stick down a stasis turret and therefore take advantage of Facet of Command. However, you have to be really tactical about this, and I don't really think Facet of Command is worth it anymore. So I definitely, if you want to at least, I definitely recommend swapping this out. You could use Facet of Justice. You could use maybe even Facet of Dawn. That is not terrible. Moving on, Facet of Courage definitely needed. This is so in a damage rotation, you proc your Arcane Needle, you throw your grenade for the debuff, and then you use your Nova Bomb. And this means that you're gonna get a damage buff from Facet of Courage. You're going to get the weaken effect from your grenade, and then this will all stack up for your Nova Bomb, as you will do just massive damage, and this pairs nicely with the bond that we'll cover in just a second. And then finally I've got Facet of Protection on just for the extra damage resist from incoming damage sources. However, if you don't need the damage, you can very much use anything that's going to help you build your Transcendent energy. Maybe you want Facet of Hope. But yeah, those are the 5 fragments I'm using. So to go over, Dominance for the weaken, Mending for extra health in tight situations, Protection for the extra damage resistance, Courage for the extra damage, and Command for that extra reload. However, with the nerf, then I would definitely recommend switching it out if you don't want to run one auto loading in 12 seconds with a timer. So maybe switch out with Facet of Dawn, as you can get Radiant from Arcane Needles. Right, that is the subclass. Moving on to the exotic bond, I am using a one with Apotheosis and Star Eaters. Now, Star Eaters did catch a small nerf, which means you now need 6 orbs instead of 4 orbs to get Star Eaters to max for the maximum damage bonus. However, still very good. Makes your Nova Bomb do insane amounts of damage. I definitely recommend this. One thing to note though with Nova Bomb is that it's Slover Bomb in this case, and if you shoot this Nova Bomb will eat your damage, so you have to be very careful when proccing this, especially in 6-man activities, that you're not blocking anyone else's damage. So in cases like if you're in a big 6-man group, I'd definitely recommend switching to Needle Storm, as Slover Bomb will just block everyone's damage on your team until you're just becoming a general nuisance and you get kicked from LFG. So I definitely recommend Needle Storm in higher content. I'm using Nova Bomb for solo flawlesses, and in some activities like trios and 3-mans, it's pretty good. But I'm using Apotheosis with Star Eater, so not only am I getting a massive damage bonus from Star Eater, then after that I'm going to get Apotheosis, and I'm going to get my melee and grenade regen super buffed, and I'm going to be able to nade and get my melees off so that my the debuff continues for a longer time. In a damage phase, I like to keep a nade at the end before I proc Transcendence, just so I can weaken the boss going into my Transcendence. When you have Transcendence though, it's important to know that your nade is a Void Grenade and a Stasis Grenade, which will help proc Facet of Command if you have it on, and Facet of Dominance. And Apotheosis means you're going to be able to pretty much guarantee get your Prismatic energy, because you're going to be able to spam your melees, spam your nades, and then eventually, just from the excess amount of damage that you're doing, you will get your Prismatic, and then you can do some extra damage in Prismatic as well. It's important to note that when you're in Prismatic, your weapons do get a damage buff, as it says, so I assume it says somewhere in here. It does not, but it is the case that in Prismatic you do more damage with your weapons. And in terms of mods for this build, for damage, of course, I'm using a Dragon's Breath and a Cartesian Coordinate, so I have Solar Surges on, and a Solar Scavenger for the extra ammo. I'm using 1 Reserve, using 2 Time Dilations, damage resistance, that suits my need. If you don't need a charged up stack because you're in a 6-man, then I definitely recommend, or maybe you have a well, then I definitely recommend just sticking on another reserve. I'm using triple firepower to generate orbs with my grenade, so that my Star Eater stacks can fill out a lot quicker. Then on the helmet, I'm using 1 Finder for special, 1 Finder for heavy, and then I'm using a Siphon mod for my call, and on the call I have Subsistence Desperate Measures. And essentially this means I'm getting darkness damage with the call to fill up my Transcendence, and also I'm generating my Star Eater orbs, my 6 Star Eater orbs with my nade and my main Ad Clear weapon. If you don't have Apotheosis Star Eater, don't fret, because I don't have this, but I definitely recommend if you can get Necrotic Grips in that first column with Star Eater. Necrotics is going to be very good for buffing that melee damage. When you proc Transcendence, you're still going to have access to your Darkness melee, so you're just making your melee do more poison damage over time, and it's just a win-win. And you can refresh that in Transcendence as your melee comes back super duper fast. However, the other build that I do have that I can show you is an Osmiomancy build, which is helpful as kills, grenade ticks give you your grenade back. So this, important to note that this does not work with Bleak Watcher turrets, so you do have to use some sort of damage grenade, like a Vortex grenade, or a Cold Snap maybe, as this says Cold Snaps travel further. However, I definitely recommend using a Vortex grenade with this bond, as it just helps you kind of spam your grenades that much faster. And if you want to go full grenade focused, you can definitely also use Osmiomancies with Starfire Protocol, another role that I just don't have. RNG just not on my side when farming that mission. But Osmiomancies and Starfire Protocol, what that does is your grenade ticks will give you your recharge for your grenade back, but also Starfire will mean all the damage you do will give you your grenade back as well. So it's a nice little synergy build where you can just spam out your grenades. So with Vortex grenades, it's really useful for applying debuffs to bosses, but it's also really useful as well to just debuff champions if you're in Nightfall activities, or just do a bunch of ad clear on low tier enemies. It sucks them all into one spot, and then you can use something like the Call to sweep them up, or Indebted Kindness, which I have here with Lead from Gold Vault Shop. But so I would definitely recommend farming for Osmios and Starfire, not Star Eater. However, if you want Osmios with Star Eaters, it does work similar to Apotheosis, where that your Transcendence grenade ticks will help. So pairing that in a damage phase is quite nice. I'm not sure which one is better between Apotheosis and Osmios, I haven't tested it, but right now I'm just using Apotheosis for the quick and easy Transcendence. As opposed to my other loadouts, this is my Envious Assassin Bait and Switch Edge Transit build, it's a Witherhoard Cartesian build, it's using that Apotheosis Starita build with a Slover Bomb. Again, if you're in 6-man, switch this out to Needlestorm. Most of my fragments stay the same between these loadouts, and again, most of these mods stay the same. Triple Surges, Double Reserves, 2-time Dilations, Firepowers, Siphons if I need them. I then have other loadouts which involve doing different running for transition encounters. So like this is a loadout I use for the opening of Grasp of Avarice with Mountaintop, Trinity Ghoul, and Slammer. But also I use this for Servitor encounter in Grasp. And then I have some generic loadouts at the top which I made a build on before. But again, these builds are also very good, so if you don't have the exotic class item or you just can't get a good roll, definitely just stick to using Getaway Artists, as it's still a very, very good build with the Arc Soul and the Stasis Turret. I wouldn't recommend switching that up. If you just can't get RNG to drop for you, it's no worries. But the exotic class items are extremely good, and I definitely recommend trying to get them if you haven't already. The main one I'm using again is Apotheosis and Star Eater, and the one I'm using in PvP is Ophidians and Vesper. So I hope this video has been useful. I hope you have learned something for fragments, or how general, like what super to use. And if you like the video, leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.